Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Well, since you're here, why don't you join me for today's session? We'll be discussing something a little bit lightweight.
Mechanics. Circular motion.
Imagine that you have an object moving with a constant velocity v. Provided that there are no external forces acting on this object, according to Newton, it should be moving in a straight path. Am I right? So here it is minding its own business, and all of a sudden some random force decides that it wants to start acting perpendicularly on this object. What do you think happens next? That's right, the object is forced to turn in the direction of this force. And there is another thing that happens that people usually don't really think about, which is that when a force acts perpendicular to the direction of motion of an object, then the force won't affect the magnitude of the velocity, but it will affect the direction. So this object turns, but the magnitude of its velocity is still v, it will not change. So now what if the force turns with the object so that it's always perpendicular to the object's direction of motion? Then obviously the object will have to keep turning and turning and turning because it's always trying to align with the direction of the force. This is what makes the object go along a circular path. Now you might be thinking,
Of course, I know this. It's called the centripetal force.
well, yes, but actually no. Because you see, a force that enables a circular motion is called a centripetal force. That's true. It's usually the title given to a common force that can fulfill the requirements for circular motion. Some examples would be contact forces like tension, friction, and normal reaction, and non contact forces like gravitational, electric, and magnetic forces. Alright, so now we will consider the general equations of motion for an object traveling along a circular path. First things first, the displacement of an object along a circular path cannot be expressed as linear displacement because obviously the object will come back to its original position over and over again, so the displacement will keep resetting. To account for this, we define a new displacement called the angular displacement, which is basically the angle subtended at the center by the moving object. We can relate this angle to the distance traveled by the object along the circular path in terms of the arc length. We can write the arc length s as s equals r theta, where r is the radius of the circular path. Now, we can't just have an angular displacement, so we are also going to define an angular velocity called omega. This angular velocity will be the angular displacement divided by time, or more accurately, the derivative of angular displacement. So we get the derivative of both sides, which is basically just dividing s by t and theta by t, but for very small values. Finally, the only thing missing is an angular acceleration. To get this, we first define a linear acceleration which is in the direction of v. So we call this acceleration the tangential acceleration because it's tangential to the circular path. As the object displaces by theta, the velocity of the object changes from v to v1 because of this tangential acceleration. So we divide the velocity difference by time and also the angular velocity difference by time. By that I mean we differentiate the two and then we get the accelerations. So these three equations, s equals r theta, v equals r omega, and a equals r alpha, are the basis for the equations of circular motion. So we discussed about the tangential acceleration that will cause the velocity to change, but we still didn't discuss about the acceleration caused by the perpendicular force F even when there is no tangential acceleration at. The acceleration caused by the perpendicular centripetal force is called the radial acceleration because the acceleration is pointing towards the center along the radius. This radial acceleration can be found either using the tangential velocity or the angular velocity. It usually depends on what kind of data is provided in the question. The relationship between the two equations is given by the previous equation, which was v equals r omega. Now the radial acceleration is one of the most important terms in circular motion questions because most of the time you will have to apply F equals ma on the object towards the radius in order to relate the centripetal force to the velocity. So we apply F equals ma, and then on the F side we have to sum all the forces in the given direction, which is towards O, and then on the other side, instead of acceleration we use either v squared over r or r omega squared depending on the data. Now we understand the theory, so we'll be looking at how to apply F equals ma to several examples of circular motion. The first case is the case where an object is connected by a string or cable and is moving along a circular path. Now as you can see in this hammer throw, the heavy ball is connected to the athlete's arms using a metal cable. So there is a tension building up in the cable, and this tension is acting as the centripetal force for the object. The athlete wants to throw the ball as far as he can, so he is spinning it at an angle, but we are going to consider the path as horizontal because we don't want to involve gravity here. The center O can be considered the position of the athlete, and the ball is moving along the red dotted path. The radial acceleration will be towards O, so we can apply F equals ma towards the center, and the resultant force acting towards the center is only the tension. There is no other force acting on the object. So on the F side we only have T, and on the acceleration side you can choose any equation you want and find what the question is asking you to find. For example, the question tells you the length of the string, which is r, and the linear velocity of the object, which is v, and if you already know the mass, then you can find the tension in the string. That could be one of the questions you encounter. Another common example is the death well. Now you can see that a death well is a kind of ball carved into the ground, and here motorbikes are traveling on the wall. Because of the normal reaction acting on the motorbike due to the wall, a centripetal force is created. So if we ignore friction, because friction is usually not considered in death well questions, you can model this as a circular motion and find out whatever you need. So in our case, the only forces acting on the object are the normal reaction and the weight. If the circular path is given by the red dotted lines, then we can resolve the components of the reaction force towards the center and along the line of action of the weight. So if the angle of the death well wall is theta, then you will see that you can apply theta here as well, which is basic O-level geometry. And so the components are resolved as r cos theta and r sin theta. Then we apply F equals ma towards the center, in which case the only force towards the center is r sin theta, and we want to relate this to the linear velocity of the motorbike. So we will use v squared over r for the acceleration. And then I would much rather have the weight than the reaction force because I already know the weight. So I am going to apply F equals ma in the perpendicular direction and relate r to mg. Now we have two equations, and as you can see we can actually divide the two equations and then r will be cancelled. But incidentally, by cancelling r we also cancel the weight. So apparently the velocity is actually not dependent on the mass. Instead, the velocity at which you need to travel while you are going along the wall of the death well is actually related to the angle, the acceleration of gravity, and the radius, which is a distance from the center. The final example that we'll discuss is the case where you take a pendulum and instead of swinging it like a pendulum, you swing it in a circular path. When you do this, the angle that the string makes with the horizontal will be kept constant and the object will keep moving along a horizontal circle. So if we try to model this separately, then you have the object traveling along a horizontal circular path and the object has an acceleration ar or a radial acceleration towards the center. Now the only forces acting on this object are the tension of the string and the weight. So this is the same problem as earlier with the death well. So it's pretty simple, isn't it? Again you apply F equals ma towards the center and then F equals ma upwards and you find the velocity as earlier. Or if you want to find something else, then it's up to you. I'm just showing you how to apply the equations. Now that we have some experience with applying F equals ma and deciding on how to substitute the forces, we'll move on to the next part, which is the conversion of linear equations of motion into angular equations of motion. So the two equation types are very similar. That is why I am going to show them side by side so that you can remember easily. As we discussed earlier, when we consider displacement, the linear displacement symbol is s and the angular displacement symbol is theta. Then you come to the velocity, and so you know that the initial linear velocity is taken as u, and here we take the initial angular velocity as omega I, which is omega initial. Similarly, we convert the final linear velocity, which is v, into the final angular velocity, which is omega f. And lastly, we convert the linear acceleration a into angular acceleration alpha. With these conversions in mind, let's start writing the linear equations of motion. So I'm going to start small and write v equals u plus at, and this will be converted into omega f equals omega I plus alpha t. That means the final angular velocity is equal to the initial angular velocity plus angular acceleration times time. Now remember that this is taken from a equals v minus u over t, which is the definition of acceleration. Then we will be writing the equation for displacement, which is also the equation for the area under a trapezium, and that is s equals u plus v over 2 into t. So you can convert it into theta equals omega I plus omega f over 2 into t. Similarly, I don't need to hold your hand anymore. You can understand and convert by yourself. So the next two equations are s equals ut plus half at squared and v squared equals u squared plus 2as. two final things that I would like to talk about are period and frequency. The period of a circular motion is the time that it takes for the object to move one complete revolution. This means that you can also define the period as the time taken for the object to subtend an angular displacement of 2 pi radians, because 2 pi radians is 360 degrees, which is a complete circle. So we can find the period by using one of the equations of linear motion and substituting the values. Finally, the frequency is the number of times per second that the object executes a complete cycle. This can be found by taking the inverse of the period. Alright, so that's it for this video. I will follow up with another video on angular motion, and perhaps we'll be able to solve some questions as well. As always, stay safe from the virus and keep coming back for more.